All right. So this interview is being recorded for my folklore studies class at Penn State Harrisburg. I just want you to know that it'll only be seen by my professor. Um, Appreciate your time. My first question is going to be, when did you start riding and what really got you into it?
So that's somewhat of a long story. I started riding anything that I'd consider a motorcycle probably back in elementary school with a little like Razor electric dirt bike. I think it went like 17 miles an hour or something like that.
Okay.
And that that kind of blossomed into getting like bigger like gasoline powered dirt bikes, and then uh probably 3 years ago I, went out of my way and got my motorcycle license and got my first, real motorcycle, as it were.
So that was actually, I think that was right after high school, right? Because we've known
Um,
each other for what, 4 years now?
yeah, it would have been, yeah, right around then. It was, I think, summer of 2016.
Okay. And what made you want to get a street bike versus just
So
dirt bikes?
while I had had my dirt bikes for, a good while, I wound up selling mine just because I didn't have enough time to actually ride, because it's a good deal of hassle not being street legal and all, having to trailer them to wherever you're planning on riding. It's a days long event essentially.
Yeah.
And for quite some time I was interested in getting a street bike and riding and participating in all that, but it really wasn't feasible when I was in high school. You can take your test when you're 16 and get your motorcycle permit, but it really wasn't an option for me then.
Okay.
And I'm probably all the more better for it, having waited, until I learned how to drive a car and not get killed, and let alone drive a motorcycle and not get killed.
So,
So it was more of a uh, situational thing. Like, it just kind of fell together, and
okay.
decided to get into it.
On the topic of that, do you believe that there should be any form of like, I know other countries will do restrictions based on um, either engine output or engine size for a certain license group, which is age or time dependent. Do
I'm
you
going to go ahead and
agree with
say
that?
actually no on that,
Okay.
because while I agree that the premise is a good idea of having a it's good in a perfect world situation, but my understanding of how it actually functions is it's very expensive, because you need riding lessons through a certified coach at each and every tier that you're trying to move up in terms of displacement and so on.
Yeah.
And a real life example of that is people here, um, who are interested in riding can take the motorcycle safety course, but even people who have full-time jobs find it difficult to just find enough time for, I think it's like 5 days, a few hours each day, because when you have a full-time job sometimes it just doesn't line up. So I think that would just be one more thing in the way of people actually being able to ride what they want. And it's sort of an honor system, that is to yourself, that you're responsible enough to operate whatever you're choosing to operate.
Okay. And on the whole rider course thing, you took this course
Yeah,
almost 2 years
yes.
ago, right? You care to explain a little bit
Yeah.
about that? Kind of more along the lines of the type of people and the environment of it, and less like
Yeah.
the test and all that.
I have actually a good example for this, because the course is structured so that you only need to be able to ride a bicycle, is the bare minimum that they ask from you in terms of physical ability.
Okay.
Aside from that, you just need a few items, you need your permit, and that's it. And they'll try their best to get you your motorcycle license, and most importantly, be safe by the end of it. But I had gone into this, already having ridden dirt bikes for numerous years, which that in and of itself puts you leagues ahead of anyone else because some people don't understand how a clutch works in terms of how to ride a motorcycle. It's very similar to a car, but it has its nuances. Even further, I had had my motorcycle permit, which allows you to ride pretty much um, anytime that it isn't dark out
Yeah.
by yourself. You don't need. It's not nearly as restricting as a normal driver's permit you would get with a car. And then on top of that, I just had a more powerful bike than what most people would consider a good first bike because I had been riding so much before that. But most of the other people there were actually beginners or an intermediate level of skill, knowing how to ride conceptually, I'll put it. But the process they take you through, even though it may feel gruelingly slow on the first day that they have you on the range, you're just literally taking baby steps. But you get to the point where you're operating the motorcycle proficiently, and you hope everyone else is, and it's a really gradual pace that they set. It's not anything that I'd consider super intimidating
Okay.
for someone who hasn't ever ridden a motorcycle before.
So what were the people like though? Was it all
The
one
riding
group of
coaches
people
or the
or everybody?
so the riding coaches, you could tell they were who were the instructors. They're just general people that have a passion for motorcycles and they kind of want to pass it on. Is the vibe I got from
Okay.
those people. As far as everyone else, you can't classify it all into one group because you really have people who have never ridden and it's a slight interest to them. So they do this as sort of a getting their feet wet, is this for me sort of activity
Yep.
without having to lay out the money for a motorcycle, then decide, this isn't really for me. Then there's the people that feel like they don't have any other means to be taught really because when you're learning how to drive a car, you usually have your parents or friends or a coach of some sort teach you. But most people don't know how to ride motorcycles, so it's not entirely uncommon that no one in a family or group of people would know how to teach another person.
Mhm.
And with that, the worst thing you do when you're driving a car in a parking lot, just getting the feel for everything, you might slam the brakes a little bit, just general weird stuff. When you're learning to ride a motorcycle, you can fall off, you can hurt yourself, you can really damage the motorcycle. So there's a lot more at risk. So it's a really widespread from people who were arguably able to take the test on the first day, like I would have been able to people who have never even laid a leg over a motorcycle before. At the end of the day, well, the days, as it were, everyone wound up passing the end course. And even I, well, more advanced than other people, I learned some interesting little pieces of information here and there. Nothing that would have been completely game changing, but just interesting facts. And it was a great way for me to get my motorcycle license.
So complete change of pace here, but one thing that I personally have noticed that's really big with bikes is the idea of events, whether it's rallies, group rides, charity rides, and whatnot. And I've noticed, you're either really into it or you're not. Some people, they might try one and find out it's not for them. Is there any sort of group event that interests you, or do you just solely do your own thing?
I'll say I fall a little bit on the side of doing my own thing in that when I ride, I just like to ride with my group of friends. I don't get involved with any sorts of rallies or uh, promotional events where you're gathering a large group of people you may not even know,
Yeah.
because it's my personal belief that when you're riding with people you don't know, there's a higher margin for some sort of incident to occur, and that's a for me personally that's a large aspect of riding is risk mitigation. So having additional risk for I wouldn't consider them any more fun than riding with a small group of friends, 4 or 5 people even. That's perfectly fine by me, but I wouldn't want to be in a large group.
Now, is there anything you personally do to help mitigate this risk? Like any sort of
Well,
tradition or belief?
when it comes to tradition or belief, I have the classic, you know, practice makes perfect. You have to actually have the skills necessary to operate a motorcycle proficiently, being able to stop in time, be able to maneuver out of the way if there's any sort of obstacle. But outside of that, I have this is just it's not even a theory; it's just a tradition of mine. I'd say more so than anything else is when out riding with friends. I would often think of the butterfly effect, which refers to how one small decision could impact or make a large impact later on down the timeline, so to speak. So one of the things is I never like to second guess which direction I'm going because oftentimes when I'm riding, I'm not trying to get to point A to point B. I'm just riding around for the fun of it. So it really doesn't matter which way I go. It's just a matter of whatever first pops into my head is usually the thing I go with. So there was no, if anything were to happen, it wouldn't be oh, I should have done what I thought, and instead here I am having not done that and worse off in the long, or, in the here and now or in the long run. Another part of that is it would seem while I was riding with friends that, albeit we live very close to a fire department, that every single time we would ride, it would seem we'd see an ambulance, and
Hmm.
typically we'd. It's a little morbid to think about, but if you assume you're seeing an ambulance, you assume, oh, that's a bad omen. You don't want to see that because you're going to wind up in it, so on and so forth. But as time went on, it would seem that none of us got located in, in an ambulance for one reason or another. So, and we continued seeing them. So, uh, almost jokingly, I adapted it to, well, every time you see an ambulance, it's just good luck because I've gotten this far and I've seen it. I've seen them all the time, and every time you see one, just good luck, nothing to worry about.
So, along the lines of bad omens, and personal beliefs like that, have you come across any other like riding friends or anything really online? Uh, Other people's personal beliefs or traditions,
One of the
superstitions?
ones I am aware of is even in groups online where you may not know someone, or even in someone if there's someone in your area that passes away due to a motorcycle accident, it's usually tradition to put the passenger pegs down in the rear just out of a sign of,
Hmm.
I suppose, respect for someone who died while on 2 wheels. Another being hanging a cross off of the passenger pegs on the rear.
That one I actually didn't know about the cross. I've heard of the passenger peg one. Uh,
I think they're fairly like hand. It's not hand in hand, but it's beating to the
Interchangeable.
same drum. Same point.
Yeah. Okay.
The only
Now.
thing I would say is the whole cross thing is probably, that has to be more of a personal, like, you knew someone who was killed,
Yeah.
and that's more of a permanent affixment to your bike from that point on, rather than just having the pegs down for there's no set amount of time, just out of respect.
Now, the one thing I do want to discuss is the wave, because I know this can be pretty debatable. Do you wave? What's your opinion on it? Do you get offended if somebody doesn't wave back to you? And really,
So
have you
the wave, I
noticed?
look at it as it's sort of like a head nod,
Okay.
when you're in public, and if you saw someone wearing the same shirt as you, and you just gave them a head nod, like, yeah, I see you're wearing the same shirt as me. We must have good taste, or just as some sort of gesture like that, and
Okay.
in some sort of humorous aspect, it sort of translates to riding a motorcycle. You're acknowledging that you both have the same passion and that you both like to ride. So therefore you're it's just like it's like a head nod, but obviously that's not very visible if you're passing each other at 60 miles an hour. The only point of contention I have with that is I'm not of this belief, but generally, certain groups of riders will not wave at other types for beliefs that they, I presume, aren't authentic, or they're just posers, or some aspect of that. And this goes both ways. Typically, it's between people who ride cruising bikes and other people who ride uh, more sport-oriented bikes. And it's an interesting situation because personally, it's not that I get offended, but I don't want to go out of my way to wave for someone just for them to ride by smugly and not wave.
Yeah.
So I'll wait for someone to wave at me if they're on. Personally, I ride a super sport, so someone's riding by on a Harley and they don't wait, they don't start to wave, I can see their hand coming out. I'm not going to wave back because I'm not going to give them the respect that they won't give me. So that it's just sort of a if you won't, I won't situation.
Gotcha. Um. So you said you ride a super sport. Now,
Yes.
do you ride uh, for just the ride alone? Do you ride for the actual sport of it? Do you um how else can I say this? Or do you ride because of the bike in a way? Hard to
Well,
explain, but do you do it for the ride, the bike, the sport, combinations
I
of
can actually break
both,
that.
all
Like, it's
three?
not just one
Okay.
because I don't believe that's true with just anyone. Some people they'll ride for just a sheer means of transportation. It's just like a car to them, but more economical for whatever reason. That's not me. I have a pretty firm belief that if cost is put out of the way, meaning of gas, I would most certainly ride in a car from whatever distance to whatever distance. Regard 10 out of 10 times I'd pick a car just for the sake of means of transportation over the motorcycle.
Okay.
Reason being is for those who've never ridden, if you're wearing what I'll call appropriate gear, meaning usually a leather or heavy textile coat, some degree of either leather or textile pants, which if you, the trend here is it's thick, it doesn't breathe well, but what doesn't breathe well also is extremely good from keeping your skin from rubbing off on the asphalt if you ever go sliding along the highway. With that, it is extremely bulky to carry around once you've gotten off the bike. You need some means of taking things with you, which usually means backpack or in some cases saddlebags if your bike permits it, or some other sort of, a fixed tank bag or the like. Anyhow, what my point is you're going to just be in general way more uncomfortable in my experience because if it's 80 degrees outside, that's, pretty warm. It's all right. You get up to like 90 degrees, you're going to be wishing you're in a car because you are going to be sweating profusely. And due to the nature of how wind chill works and your body's temperature at 97 point whatever degrees, the delta in temperature between the air and you isn't that much. So you're not going to be getting cooled down very much at all at any speed. I mean, granted, the faster you go, it will have an effect, but
So what
suppose you hit
is
traffic, etc. But my real reason for riding is a mix of the sport of it, the ride in and of itself. Just being on two wheels is fun for me,
Okay.
and I'd say the lesser component is the bike. It's not like when I go out and ride, I'm enjoying myself for being out. I enjoy the bike I'm on, permitting it's the right bike for the situation, and the sport of it kind of comes in line with what bike I have. And a lot of people have the misconception that super sports are good at doing one thing, and that's going fast in a straight line. And that is entirely far from the point of super sports, where their main point is to primarily take turns fast and just enjoy yourself. When I say fast, I don't mean 120 miles an hour. It could be 40 miles an hour, and that could be very fast. This all being said, it depends on what you're going out and riding. There's been days where I've wanted to go out and really rip it up and do this in a fairly remote location where I'm not endangering anyone else to any super high extent. Or sometimes I just want to hop on my bike and, you know, it's like sightseeing on two wheels essentially. You just kind of roll around and see what you see.
Gotcha. So, y- writing for the sport of it, do you along the lines of that, do you follow any competitive, I guess like MotoGP stuff like that? Do you have any idols, or is it just I know
Well,
you're
I
younger compared to other people I've interviewed, so I'm sure you watch a couple people on YouTube maybe. Is there anyone you look up to though, really?
um I'm trying to think off the top of my head, and I know it's not they can't possibly be that great of a hero of mine or someone who I look up to. But one of my favorite individuals who I think is a very talented rider is a guy by the name Bucky Sacrilege. He posts videos on YouTube. He's not by any means famous or anything like that. He is a guy who lives out in California, and there's a there's several dozen famous canyon roads out there that are uh, some of the best motorcycle riding roads in the world when it comes to
Hmm.
riding for the sport of it on roads, albeit bending some laws. And he is just a very talented individual who doesn't have much in the way of like what I'd say competitive competitive background. He's been on tracks and things like that, but it's not the same as taking someone at a MotoGP level and saying, "Oh, here, go ride on the street." He's just mostly just a guy who got really good at riding from just riding. And while I don't profess to be half of his skill level, you can try to surmise a certain amount of techniques and things of that nature from watching and hearing and just educating yourself. And one of the best adages that I will adhere to is riding at 70% of your skill level is the best way to improve. The reason for that is at that 70% mark, you're not pushing yourself to the limit of where you might be hurting yourself or someone else should you lose control or something happens. But it's still enough of a heightened state, so to speak, where you're
Gotcha.
exercising your skills.
Okay. And then one final question here. What is your least favorite part of the of like motorcyclists as a group?
The people or
The
just the sport, or what exactly do you mean?
mainly the people, people, bikes, whatever. Is there anything you dislike about things you see out on the road or at events or anything along the lines of that, really?
The general notion when it comes to motorsports, and it carries over to motorcycles, but not to quite the degree it does with other things, is the mine is better than yours for X, Y, or Z reasons. And what I very much so dislike people that just hop on that mentality, because chances are that they don't really love motorcycles the way most other people who view it as no matter what bike they could be put on, take their favorite bike that's sitting in their garage right now and replace it with some piece of junk, so to speak. They'd still probably have a great time riding that piece of junk. Whereas the other person would be ashamed to be seen on it, or would just otherwise give up on it as a whole. It's just this attitude of one-upmanship that I can't stand, or superiority. For me, at the end of the day, it's just one common hobby that, while I might like one aspect of it and one type of machine, it's still the same sport, if you'd call it that, at the end of the day.
Okay. Yeah. Um, I think that covers all my questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or?
Not that I can really think of off the top of my head. I think I covered just about everything there for you.
Alrighty, well, I appreciate your time. Thanks for letting me interview you.
Yep, you got it.